My husband thought he was giving me a gift, a brand new SUV for our family. Instead, he ripped away the last piece of my past and revealed a secret that would redefine everything I thought I owned. The smell of charcoal and freshly cut grass usually meant a perfect Sunday. Our backyard was filled with the low murmur of family chatter, the clinking of beer bottles, and the squeals of my 7-year-old stepdaughter, Chloe, chasing butterflies. My husband, Mark, was playing the role he loved most, the magnanimous host. He stood at the grill, tongs in hand, a smug, self-satisfied grin plastered on his face as he flipped burgers for my cousins. Everything looked perfect, a carefully curated snapshot of domestic bliss. But for the past few weeks, a knot of anxiety had been tightening in my stomach, and it had everything to do with the man at the grill. It had started with little things, comments about my car, a trusty 2012 Honda Civic. It wasn't just a car to me. It was the last gift my grandpa gave me before he passed away. It was the car I'd driven to college graduation, the car that had carried me on my first solo road trip, the car that represented a piece of my independence before I met Mark. It had dents from rogue shopping carts and a coffee stain on the passenger seat shaped vaguely like Australia, but it was mine. "That thing is an eyesore, honey," Mark would say, loud enough for guests to hear. "Doesn't really scream successful family, does it?" He'd started leaving brochures for massive, sterile white SUVs on the kitchen counter. I'd told him repeatedly that I loved my car and we couldn't afford a new one. He'd just smile that patronizing smile and say, "Don't you worry your pretty little head about it." My dad was supposed to arrive any minute, and I was looking forward to having an ally. He saw through Mark's polished veneer. He'd never said it outright, but I could see the worry in his eyes whenever Mark would casually cut me off mid-sentence or answer a question that was directed at me. So when I heard his familiar pickup truck rumble to a stop out front, I felt a wave of relief. I wiped my hands on my apron and headed through the house to greet him. But when I opened the front door, I froze. My little blue Civic was gone. In its place, parked squarely in the center of the driveway like a monument to my irrelevance, sat a monstrously large, gleaming white SUV, the kind Mark had been pushing for. It was so new it still had the dealership's paper license plate taped to the back window. My heart started hammering against my ribs. He wouldn't. He couldn't have done this without even talking to me. My dad was standing on the sidewalk, a confused look on his face. "Big new toy, huh?" he said, gesturing towards the SUV with his chin. "Didn't know you guys were in the market." I forced a brittle smile. "Yeah, it's a surprise." Before I could say anything else, Mark came jogging out of the house, wiping his greasy hands on a towel. He threw his arm around my shoulders, squeezing just a little too tight. "There she is. Surprised, babe? I told you I'd take care of it." He beamed at my dad. "Had to get rid of that old death trap she was driving. This is much safer for the family." The words death trap felt like a slap in the face. That was my grandpa's car he was talking about. I could feel my throat closing up, the protest dying before it could form. Mark had chosen this moment deliberately, in front of my dad, turning a unilateral, disrespectful decision into a grand, romantic gesture. If I got upset, I would be the ungrateful one. My dad, bless him, didn't buy it for a second. His eyes narrowed, looking from Mark's triumphant face to my stunned silence. He walked past the gleaming white beast and scanned the street. "Well, that's great, Mark," he said, his voice carefully neutral. "But where's the Civic, honey? Did you at least get a decent trade-in value for it?" The air crackled with tension. All the pleasant backyard sounds seemed to fade into the background. It was the question I was terrified to ask, the one that hung in the air between us. "What did you do with my car?" "My grandfather's car." Mark's smile didn't falter. In fact, it widened. It was a slow, deliberate expression that didn't reach his eyes. It was a smile that said, "I have all the power here, and you have none." He opened his mouth to speak, but he was interrupted. Chloe came tearing around the side of the house, her face bright with excitement. She ran straight to Mark, who scooped her up into his arms. "Daddy, Daddy, is Grandpa here to see Mommy's car?" she chirped, her innocent voice cutting through the suffocating silence. And then it happened. As my dad watched, a familiar shade of blue turned the corner at the end of our street. It was my car, my little Honda Civic, with the dent on the fender and the faded bumper sticker. My heart leaped with a desperate, foolish hope. Maybe it was all a misunderstanding. But then I saw who was behind the wheel. It was Mark's mother, Brenda, a woman who had never hidden her disdain for me. She pulled right up to the curb behind my dad's truck, gave a little toot of the horn, and waved at us with a proprietary air. Chloe pointed a chubby finger at the Civic. "There it is. This is my mommy's car now," she shouted with glee. My husband just smiled at my dad, a smug, triumphant look on his face, as the woman driving my grandfather's car blew a kiss in his direction. The words hung in the humid afternoon air, sharp and unbelievable. "This is my mommy's car now." For a second, my brain refused to process it. I looked at Chloe's innocent, beaming face, then at my mother-in-law, Brenda, preening behind the wheel of my car, and finally at my husband. His smile was the final, damning piece of evidence. It was a look of pure, unadulterated triumph. He had won. He hadn't just gotten his way. He had orchestrated a public humiliation. My dad's face hardened, the friendly guest persona vanishing completely. He took a step forward, his voice low and dangerous. "Mark, what is she talking about?" Mark just chuckled, a dismissive sound that grated on my raw nerves. He set Chloe down, patting her on the head. "Frank, relax. We're all family here. Brenda's car finally died on her last week. The timing was perfect. I get my wife a safer, more reliable vehicle, and I help my mom out of a jam. Everybody's happy." "Everybody?" I finally choked out, the word tasting like ash. My gaze was locked on the Civic. My car. Brenda finally opened the driver's side door, stepping out with the grace of a queen accepting her new chariot. She was wearing a floral dress that was too bright, her lipstick a slash of crimson. "Oh, darling, don't be so dramatic," she said, wagging a finger at me. She didn't even look at me, her attention focused on my father. "Frank, you should be proud of him. He takes care of his family, all of his family." She patted the hood of my car with a familiarity that made my stomach churn. "This little thing is just perfect for my bingo nights." Bingo nights. My grandpa's car, the one he'd saved up for months to buy me, the one we'd picked out together at the dealership, was now a bingo shuttle. The image was so absurd, so insulting, it broke through the shock and ignited a fire in my chest. "You had no right," I said, my voice shaking but growing stronger with every word. I took a step toward Mark, forcing him to look at me, really look at me. "That car was a gift from my grandfather. It meant everything to me. You knew that." Mark's face tightened. The charming host was gone, replaced by the cold, calculating man I was beginning to see more and more often. "Don't be a child, Sarah. It's a machine. A 10-year-old machine that was probably one pothole away from falling apart. I replaced it. I upgraded you. I did something for you. A simple thank you would be nice." "Thank you?" I laughed, a sharp, ugly sound. "Thank you for giving away my property behind my back? Thank you for humiliating me in front of my own father?" "That car was in Sarah's name," my dad cut in, his arms crossed over his chest. He looked like he was ready to physically drag the Civic back into our driveway himself. "You can't just give it away. That's illegal." The word illegal hung in the air. That's when the logistics of it all crashed down on me. This wasn't just a betrayal, it was a crime. "He's right," I said, my mind racing. "How did you do it, Mark? How did you transfer ownership? My name is on the title. I keep it locked in the filing cabinet. You need my signature to sell it or give it away." I watched his face, searching for a flicker of fear, of guilt, but there was nothing, just that same infuriating arrogance. Brenda was starting to look a little nervous, glancing between Mark and me. The neighbors were probably enjoying the free Sunday afternoon soap opera. I didn't care. "I want the keys, Mark," I said, my voice dropping to a steely whisper. "The keys to the Civic. Now." He scoffed. "I already told you, Brenda needs the car." "I don't care what Brenda needs." I was practically shouting now. "You stole my car, you forged my signature, didn't you? You went into my files, took my title, and signed my name." A thick, heavy silence fell over the driveway. My dad looked at Mark, his expression one of utter disgust. Even Chloe seemed to sense the shift, her happy chatter fading as she hid behind Mark's leg. Mark stared at me, his eyes cold and hard. The smirk was gone. This was the real him. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the key fob for the new SUV, tossing it from one hand to the other. The plastic jingled obnoxiously in the quiet. He let the accusation hang in the air for a long moment, making me wait, making me squirm. Then he let out a low, humorless chuckle. "Forge your signature?" he said, his voice dripping with condescension. Sarah, 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 why would I ever need to do something like that? He took a deliberate step closer, invading my space, forcing me to tilt my head back to look up at him. "You're forgetting a few things about that gift I gave you when we first got serious. I paid for it, remember? I handled all the paperwork at the dealership for you." He leaned in, his voice dropping so low only I and my dad could hear it. "The title was never in your name. It's always been in mine." The world tilted. It felt like the ground had just dropped out from under me, leaving me in a free fall. "What?" I whispered. It was the only word I could manage. My mind was scrambling, trying to make sense of his claim, trying to find a flaw in the cruel logic. "It's always been in mine." The memory hit me with the force of a physical blow. Me, 24 years old, standing in the Honda dealership with my grandpa. He'd just sold his old fishing boat and wanted to use the money to make sure I had a reliable car for my new job. He was a proud, old-fashioned man who dealt in cash and handshakes. He hated paperwork. Mark had swooped in then, all charm and competence. "Let me handle this, Pop," he'd said to my grandpa, patting his shoulder. "I know these guys. I can make sure she gets the best deal. You just enjoy the moment." I had been so grateful, so relieved to have my confident, worldly boyfriend take care of the boring details. I just signed where he told me to sign, my head dizzy with the excitement of it all. I never even looked at the name on the title. I just saw the keys in my hand and the proud look on my grandpa's face. My dad stepped between us, a solid wall of fury. "You liar," he snarled at Mark. "I was there when her grandpa handed over the cashier's check. That money was for Sarah. That car was for Sarah." Mark didn't even flinch. "The money was a gift, Frank. A gift that was used to purchase an asset. An asset that, for insurance purposes and to simplify our household finances, I registered in my name. It was purely a practical decision." He said it so calmly, so rationally, as if he were explaining a mortgage rate. He was trying to gaslight my own father, right in front of me. Practical. I found my voice again, and it was laced with ice. It was practical to put a car, paid for with my family's money, entirely in your name. A car you knew held immense sentimental value for me. And then to never, not once in 8 years, mention that little practical detail to your wife? "It never came up," he said with a shrug, the picture of nonchalance. "Why would it? We're a team. What's mine is yours, and what's yours is mine." Or so I thought. He shot me a look full of manufactured disappointment, as if I were the one breaking some sacred trust. Brenda, seeing her son had the upper hand, scurried over to the Civic and started pulling her oversized purse from the passenger seat. "Well, I think I'll just get my things," she chirped, trying to inject some normalcy into the toxic scene. "Mark, sweetie, I'll see you for dinner on Tuesday." She was trying to make her escape before the whole thing imploded completely. "You're not going anywhere in that car," my dad said, his voice flat and final. He turned his body, blocking her path. Mark laughed out loud. "Oh, come on, Frank. Don't be like that. Are you going to call the cops? What are you going to tell them? That I gave a car that is legally mine to my own mother? They'll laugh you out of the driveway." He was right. I knew he was right. My stomach twisted into a painful knot. He had planned this. Every single detail. He had waited for an audience, for my dad to be here, to maximize my humiliation and helplessness. He hadn't just given my car away. He had revealed that it had never truly been mine to begin with. He had stripped me of my ownership, my independence, and a piece of my grandfather's memory all in one fell swoop. "Get out of my way, Mark," I said, my voice dangerously quiet. I started walking towards the Civic. I didn't know what I was going to do. Rip the keys from Brenda's hand? Sit in the driver's seat and refuse to move? I just knew I couldn't let her drive away in it. He stepped in front of me, grabbing my upper arm. His grip was tight, bruising. "Don't make a scene, Sarah," he hissed, his charming facade completely gone, replaced by a chilling menace. "Our guests are starting to stare. Go inside. We'll talk about this later." "There's nothing to talk about," I shot back, trying to wrench my arm free. You've made everything perfectly clear." His fingers dug in deeper. I said, "Go inside." "Let go of her," my dad warned, taking another step forward. The space between the three of us was electric, humming with the threat of violence. Behind us, the party had gone silent. My cousins, my aunt, they were all standing on the patio, watching the drama unfold, their burgers forgotten on their plates. That's when Chloe, who had been watching with wide, frightened eyes, started to cry. A loud, hiccuping sob that cut through the tension like a siren. "Mommy, Daddy, stop fighting," she wailed. The sound of her distress snapped Mark back into character. He immediately released my arm, his face softening into a mask of concern. He knelt down to her level. "Shh, sweetie, it's okay. Mommy's just a little upset about her surprise. She's not used to Daddy doing such nice things for her." He stood up and shot a pointed look at me, a silent command to play along for the sake of the child. But I was done playing along. I looked at the brand new sterile SUV he had parked in my spot. I looked at my beloved Civic, my last real connection to my grandpa, about to be driven away by a woman who despised me. I looked at my husband, a man who had just revealed himself to be a manipulative, controlling stranger. And I saw my future laid out before me, a life of being managed, controlled, and upgraded against my will. A life where what was mine was actually his. My dad must have seen the decision in my eyes. He gave me a short, almost imperceptible nod. He walked over to his pickup truck, opened the driver's side door, and just stood there, waiting. It was an offer, a way out. I ignored Mark completely. I walked over to Brenda, who was clutching her purse to her chest like a shield. I held out my hand. "The key," I said. "Not a request, a demand." She looked at Mark, her eyes wide with uncertainty. He gave a slight shake of his head. Emboldened, Brenda puffed out her chest. "Mark gave me this car. It's mine now." My gaze flickered to the key dangling from her manicured fingers. The little silver Honda logo, the worn spot where my thumb always rested. Before I could even think about what I was doing, my hand shot out and snatched it from her grasp. I turned my back on all of them. My stunned mother-in-law, my furious husband, my crying stepdaughter, and walked towards the monstrous white SUV, my new cage. I clicked the unlock button on the fob Mark had tried to give me. The SUV chirped obediently. I opened the driver's side door, the new car smell hitting me like a wave of nausea. But I didn't get in. I reached into the center console, my fingers searching for what I knew he would have transferred over from the Civic. My wallet, my phone, and the garage door opener. I grabbed it, slammed the car door shut, and turned to face him, the small gray remote clutched in my hand like a weapon. Mark's face was a thundercloud. "Sarah, what do you think you're doing?" I didn't answer him. I just pressed the button. The garage door began its slow, grinding ascent, revealing the contents of our shared life. The lawnmower, the kids' bikes, and stacks upon stacks of boxes. Boxes of his things, his prized golf clubs, his expensive stereo equipment he'd put in storage, his collection of vintage vinyl. Everything he valued. With a second click, I stopped the door halfway up. I turned to my dad. "Can you give me a hand?" I asked, my voice as calm and steady as a frozen lake. "I think it's time I did some spring cleaning." For a moment, nobody moved. The only sound was the faint hum of the garage door motor and Chloe's muffled sobs. Mark stared at me, his mouth slightly agape, the confident puppet master suddenly realizing his strings had been cut. He had expected tears, maybe a tantrum inside the house. He had not expected this. He had not expected me to change the battlefield. My dad, however, understood immediately. A slow grin spread across his face. "Be happy to, honey," he said, striding over to the garage. He hoisted a heavy box labeled Vintage Rock LPs, handle with care, as if it weighed nothing. "Where do you want this stuff?" "The lawn," I said, my eyes locked on Mark's. "The front lawn." "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Mark finally roared, taking a step toward me. "That's my stuff. Some of that is worth a fortune." "Is it?" I asked, my voice dangerously sweet. "I thought what was yours was mine. You said so yourself. And right now, I feel like my half of the garage is a little cluttered, so I'm redecorating." My dad had already set the first box down near the curb and was heading back for another. This time he grabbed the golf clubs. The sight of his precious, custom-fitted Callaways being carted out like trash seemed to break Mark's paralysis. He lunged for the garage, trying to get past me, but I stepped in his way. "Don't touch me, Mark," I warned, my voice low and filled with a resolve that surprised even me. He stopped, his chest heaving. The power dynamic had shifted so violently it was almost palpable. A minute ago, he held all the cards. Now I had his entire material world hostage on the front lawn. "Sarah, this is insane," he sputtered. Brenda, realizing her new car was now the least of her son's problems, was trying to shepherd him away. "Mark, sweetie, let's just go. We can sort this out later." "No," he yelled, shaking her off. "She's throwing my stuff into the street." "It's not in the street, it's on the lawn," my dad corrected cheerfully, emerging with a tower of shoeboxes containing Mark's ridiculously expensive sneaker collection. "Plenty of room out here." My cousins were now drifting towards the front yard, watching the spectacle with a mixture of shock and glee. The party was officially over. I held up the keys to the Civic, the ones I'd snatched from Brenda. "You want me to stop?" I asked Mark. "It's very simple. You go to your mother. You get the title for my grandfather's car, the one that's in your name. You sign it over to me, right now. My dad can be the witness." He stared at me, his mind clearly racing, looking for an angle, a way to regain control. "And if I don't?" I smiled, a cold, hard thing that didn't touch my eyes. "Then I'm going to have the biggest, free-est garage sale this neighborhood has ever seen. Starting with this." I walked over to the box of records my dad had set down. I opened the flap and pulled out the first one I saw, a pristine copy of the Beatles' White Album, an original pressing he'd bragged about for years. I held it up for him to see, my fingers positioned precariously on the vinyl. "You wouldn't dare," he breathed, his face pale. "Try me," I said. "It's just a thing, right? A 10-year-old thing, easily replaced." I used his own words against him, and I saw the blow land. He knew I would do it. He saw in my eyes that the woman who had spent years placating him, shrinking herself to fit into the box he'd built for her, was gone. Defeated, he turned to his mother. "Give me the damn title, Mom." Brenda looked horrified. "But Mark, the car." "Give it to me," he screamed, his voice cracking with rage. Sullenly, she rummaged through her purse and produced the folded document. He snatched it from her and stomped over to me, grabbing a pen from his pocket. Using the hood of the new SUV, his new SUV, as a desk, he messily scrawled his signature on the transfer line. My dad came over, signed as the witness, and handed the paper to me. I folded it carefully and put it in my pocket. It felt heavier than a simple piece of paper. It felt like freedom. I walked over to the Civic, my beautiful, dented, perfect car. I got in, the familiar scent of old books and coffee washing over me. It felt like coming home. I started the engine and it hummed to life, a loyal and steady sound. I looked at the scene in my rearview mirror. Brenda was trying to console a fuming Mark. Chloe was watching me, her face streaked with tears and confusion. My heart ached for her, but I knew I couldn't stay. Not for her, not for anyone. Staying would be a slow death. I put the car in drive and pulled away from the curb, not looking back. My dad followed behind me in his truck. We drove in silence for a few miles before he pulled up beside me at a red light and rolled down his window. "Where are we going, kiddo?" he asked, his voice full of warmth and concern. I thought for a moment, the road stretching out in front of me. I didn't have a plan. I had a half tank of gas, a car that was finally, legally mine, and the title to my own life back in my pocket. For the first time in a very long time, I was the one behind the wheel, and I could go anywhere. "I don't know yet, Dad," I said, and for the first time all day I smiled a real, genuine smile. "But I'm driving.